Hello everybody, and sorry we're late. I just had to go and reset some equipment out here in the field, some equipment that's vital to our broadcast. My name is My name is Mark. Welcome to WildEarth this afternoon. Welcome to Djuma Game Reserve. Beautiful Saturday afternoon. Very mild temperatures here. We have a little bit of cloud cover. Fortunately no rain yet. And just had to go. We've got a little shed, can't see it from here, and a mast. And required some restarting of equipment. We're going to be heading out for a wonderful afternoon this afternoon. I hope you're going to send in some questions. Questions can be sent to questions@wildearth.tv. A lot of questions in that sentence. And of course we also on Twitter, and you can send your questions via Twitter through #SafariLive, and hopefully we're going to be able to answer them and talk to you wherever you are on the planet. Do remember, please let me know where you are on the planet. It's just nice to know, sort of in my mind's eye, where I'm talking to. It gives me an idea of the time frame that you are in, or rather the time zone that you are in, whether you're ahead of us or behind us or about the same time. Hope you're all having a great weekend. Well, let me stop babbling. Let's go and see what we can find for you this afternoon. The flowers, by the way, my opening flowers, because I know I wasn't here for that opening. I was back at the tower. Tricloceros longipedunculata, for those of you who are botanically minded. I believe it has several common names. One of the common names is lion's eye. I don't know why. The other common name is a roadside pimpernel. Just sadly it's not scarlet. Nor is it red. Butler. Right, I wonder where we should go from here. What do you think, Jason? Jason's on camera. Alex is in, and Alex is also in final control. Pardon? Find those particular animals. So we're going to venture into uncharted territory as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure the vehicles and the cameras have been around that area before, but I'm going to venture that way myself. So I think what we'll do is we'll head down Zoe's Road and make our way into Arathusa. It's going to require me to consult a map, an electronic map. Since I haven't driven there before, I have I have no idea where any of the roads lead. But I do have a vague idea of where we want the roads to lead us. And fortunately, it is far better than a hardcover map, which I'm going to consult the hardcover map since I'm hardcover, what do you call it? Hard copy, not hardcover. I'm more accustomed to reading maps than I am with electronic gadgets. So I have a laminated copy, which is, I probably need a magnifying glass. Golly gosh. Maybe I need to use the electronic one. I can't zoom in this one. At least I can do that on the electronic one and it zooms in. But that looks like Arathusa airstrip over there. And it's only that little area I think that we can cover. I don't think we can cover the greater Arathusa area. But what we have with Arathusa allowing us to traverse on their territory or on their land is almost double the size of what we have on Djuma. And I guess there might be, and there's most likely to be, some areas on Arathusa where we go through dips and we have a little bit of a signal shadow for a broadcast. I guess the only way to do that is to, or rather the only way to learn that is to find out and to do it, to go there. Oh my, but hang on a second, there are lion tracks here. was in such a hurry to get here to try and get it all started before the drive that I didn't really look at tracks very much on the way. Let me just go back towards Impala Plains. Sorry, yeah, this always happens. Find something and I got to retrace my steps. Unfortunately, I've driven here already, so I've probably driven over tracks. If they did go this way, most likely driven over the tracks. But just beyond this little junction where I turn off to the mast and the equipment, nobody's been driving there. So there should be, if they did come this way, there should be some sign of them. Otherwise they might have gone towards Zoe's Road and Gari access, or Gari Vuyatela access road. Vital to look at tracks because it gives us an idea of animal movement. Not so much, maybe we don't really concentrate so much on the general game and the tracks of general game, although when we do need to find giraffe, it's nice to be able to find their tracks. They're fairly easy to follow, being such large tracks and being such heavy animals. So this is where I haven't driven, so let's see if there's anything here. Doesn't look like it. They might not have come this way. Must have headed along Zoe's Road. So I'm going to do a loop this way round. Interesting. I wonder. One doesn't always have success when following tracks. If it wasn't for the broadcast, if I was just out on my own, or if I was actually driving with clients or guests for that matter, and I needed to find a cat, I would follow the tracks a lot more intently or intensely and actually leave the vehicle, go out on foot. But I don't want to leave you for too long, so I'm going to try and track from the vehicle as much as I can. Cats do like to travel on roads. Cats like to have the soft sand and the silence and the comfort of walking on pathways and natural animal pathways, and our roads just happen to form natural pathways for them, a lot wider than if they find the pathways that are made by the likes of elephant and zebra and hippo and rhino and all sorts of other animals that do tend to create their own paths by their daily or seasonal movement. Some dwarf mongoose running through the grass, but they are there. Few of them on that little bit of a termite mound. Hello Bobby. Bobby calling on Twitter, or sending a question through on Twitter. Hi Bobby. Hello mongoose. Hello children. They're hiding behind a clump of grass, but if we stop and we sit and I don't talk too loud, they might just pop their heads up. Bobby was asking about my avoiding dung on the road and whether I do that to avoid picking up the scent of animals on the tires of the vehicle. No, that's not entirely it, Bobby. What it is that this is the season for scarab beetles, dung beetles, and a whole host of other creatures that use dung for different nutrients and different different things. I mean, even butterflies flock to dung because of the moisture and the minerals that they can absorb from the moisture of dung. But I suppose primarily because of dung beetles. It's vital to not crush them and drive over them. Allow them to do what they need to do. They need to take the dung and feed the soil. Having said that, I actually brought one with me, but we'll get to it a little bit later. I'd have been promising to bring it along. It's a skeleton of a scarab. Scarabs are dung beetles, by the way. They're not bugs. Just to throw that in, beetles are not bugs. Beetles are beetles, bugs are different. And I wanted to show you something special with the dung beetle, but we'll leave that for when we might have a little gap in not knowing what to talk about or not knowing where to go. Dwarf mongoose, gorgeous little creatures, very tight-knit communities that they live in. The community is governed by an alpha female and an alpha male, who are I suppose we could call them the alpha pair, the breeding pair, and all the other adults that fall within the community or the colony are non-breeding individuals who help with safety, security, and child minding, the children of the alpha couple. Now this isn't a very big termite mound. This could be a den that they use temporarily, part-time I suppose. It could be their permanent den. I have no idea what it looks like underground. One of these days, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to get an old gastroscope or one of those cameras that you can put down a hole. That would be pretty amazing to get an idea of what their burrow systems look like. But on some of the larger termite mounds where you have dwarf mongoose, or even for that matter banded mongoose colonies, they can almost act as a compass, because in the mornings when they wake up, they have a ritual on the eastern side of a termite mound, because that's the side the sun is coming up, and they will congregate on the eastern side, warming up in the sun. And their toilet ritual and grooming ritual means that there's a very particular look to the eastern side of a termite mound. A lot of dung, a lot of scratching. And it's the same with the western side. There maybe not as much on the eastern side, but on the western side of their den, just before they go to bed, they do a lot of socializing and ablutions and things. So you find concentrations on both east and western side. And day like today, when it's completely overcast, it's not a true east-west, so it's more or less, but it gives you a fair idea more or less where north and south is, or where your compass points are. Looks like they have several entrances. The entrances that they're probably using are the chimneys of the probably now dead termite colony, chimneys that the colony would have used to release heat, to ventilate the colony, but also to release their reproductive individuals when the summer storms come and they need to let out their flying reproductive caste. A few of them heading out to forage and go dig for grubs and insects. Whatever they can find. So I think we're going to leave them be. We're probably going to startle them a little bit by starting up question coming through on Twitter from Paul, wanting to know if these mongoose also take on snakes like their larger cousins. Yes, they do, and they will band together and gang up on a snake if need be. Obviously not very big ones, but they are very fast little animals, and they're able to avoid the strike of some of the venomous snakes if they're striking. Personally, in all my years living in the bush, I have never seen them, but I have read about it, and I have other knowledge of them taking on snakes. But personally, I have to be honest, I've never seen it happen. Okay, before we head over that way to Arahusa. I want to follow up on cats. So we're just going to have a look. A day like today, we've had pretty grey day today. Very nice cool temperatures, and because of that it's quite common to have cats moving around in this weather as opposed to conserving their energy. Cats are not lazy, they're merely very energy conscious. Even your domestic cat at home might think he sleeps a lot, or she, but it's not so much being lazy as much as it is conserving energy. Unfortunately for the domestic cat though, after sleeping, instead of burning off all that energy that they're conserving by hunting, they are given food, so that energy gets pent up, and that's why sometimes furniture gets ripped, curtains get climbed. So it's vital in fact to provide occupational therapy or energy therapy to a cat. One of the best things one can do is maybe put a feather on the end of a piece of string, or even just a tissue, tie a tissue on the end of a piece of string, tie it to a belt loop and walk around with it and let the cat fly. Well, they need to burn energy. Been some zebra here, so we might see some zebra soon. Zebra been on the road heading up in this direction. See if we can stop and listen. The long-tailed shrikes are calling and hunting. I'd like to be able to see some of them. We've got a little group of them here. They do live in family groups. There's a nice one on that little wattle. Now, something I'd like to ask anyone out there, maybe Raisa or RC or Brian, if you're watching, some of our birders. We call them long-tailed shrikes, but up in East Africa, and I don't have an East African bird book with me at the moment, so I can't really tell. But I think that, oh, did you hear that? The busted. Quick. The long-tailed shrike, I think, has now been called the magpie shrike, but up in East Africa there is a magpie shrike that is different to our southern long-tailed shrike. So I'd like to know if anyone can just send it to me, the scientific name of the long-tailed shrike from South Africa and the magpie shrike from East Africa. And I would like to know, I'm sure I've done this before, but my brain doesn't really remember. So I'd like to know if they're the same bird or if they are actually different birds, because I think they're different birds, but I might be wrong. Corvinella melanoluca. Corvinella. Trying to understand what the species name would mean. Melanoluca, black and white. Melano refers to black and luca refers to white, so it could have something to do with the fact that it's a black and white shrike. I would have called it longicordatus or something, long-tailed.
There's the bastard.
The who?
The bastard.
Oh, the bastard.
And the tail go forward.
And the termite mound.
Yep.
Oh, there he is. I don't know if we'll be able to get his sound if he make. Can you see him, or well, gone a little bit
That's perfect.
too, well, not far enough. Quick. Very striking bird, the black-bellied bustard. I'm just going to wait and see if he does his special call. There we go. Stretches the neck. Maybe it's coming. And then he pulls his head in before he does the cork popping sound. I think he just heard another one. Did you hear that? I hope you all heard that. There's another one that's challenging him. So I noticed when I heard that the popping sound, he stretched his neck extra long, extra there, and dot dot dot. One more time, come on, quickly. One more time. Sorry, I've seen that all my life, but it still tickles me every time they do it. Black-bellied bustard. Not as common as the buff-crested bustard, and we actually don't see them. When they're not mating, they're not standing out on prominent markers like a termite mound or on a fallen tree. When they're not in the mating season and disputing territories, one doesn't really see them very much. They're rather shy. Grey day, what a lovely day. Had a wonderful time this morning, our morning, with elephants and giraffe and flowers. Luca. Yeah, Luca. Yeah. That's the long. Yeah. And the magpie. Alex helping me with some of your answers on the long-tailed shrike and the magpie shrike from East Africa. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing this. I'll get to shortly as soon as I get the answer in my ear. Entirely, but species name is the same. Ah, that is interesting. Euro. Okay, spell the genus for me, please. Urolestes, Melanolucus, Melanoluca. Well, unless the genus has changed and it's not reflected in our literature. Well, there's a pimpernel that is looking a little bit scarlet, looking a lot darker than the orange. So it appears that the magpie shrike is maybe a different genus in East Africa, but the same species name, which is very strange, but not that unusual. Don't know if you can see that. It's much deeper orange, almost reddish Tricloceros. Thought I'd just show you that. Now, name changes here in South Africa have taken place because we had a lot of colloquial names for birds over many years of our previous unwanted government. And lately, or rather over the last 15 or more years, we've been trying to change things so that we're more tied in with, or we're more recognized amongst the international community in terms of bird names and what we call things. Like one of them is the difference between a lapwing and a plover. Everything with plovers, but the birds in other countries under those genus or under those families were known as lapwings. So some of the lapwings changed, like the francolins. Some of them are actually spurfowl, not francolins. But you know, really, it's all semantics, because these are just common names that do vary. That is one of the reasons why scientific names are there. The binomial nomenclature that Linnaeus established way back when, so that no matter where you live, there is only really one name for something, and that common names will and can vary. I wonder if we can just look up into that marula tree. You can see a very heavy cluster of very dark green that is not marula leaves. Now you can just, before you zoom in, you can see it there on the sort of just off to the middle, to the right of the middle of your screens at the moment. You can see the lovely sort of feathery leaves of the marula all around it, but there are these two clusters of very dense foliage, and those are mistletoe. And I thought it appropriate, since we're going into Christmas, to bring you some mistletoe. I'll park under some mistletoe and send all of you ladies a kiss on Christmas Day. So the long-tailed shrike was renamed the magpie shrike, and I was curious about this first time I heard it, because there is the magpie shrike from East Africa, and I know it is a different bird, because it doesn't look anything like the long-tailed shrike from South Africa. So I was wondering, why would it be called a name that another bird already has? And I can't answer that. So just thought I'd mention it for the birders. Maybe somebody can give me an answer. Maybe there's something somewhere in the electronic internet world of the web where an answer can be found. Now, I want to find lion tracks that were coming down Zoe's Road, because they didn't go to the north. And I wonder if they came east and then north. Nothing here. But then and this road does carry a lot of traffic. Fortunately, a very high ceiling, what we call this cloud cover. I'll call it a ceiling. I picked that up from pilots in days when I used to live in game reserves and parks, where the only way to get in and out were with small planes, and every morning we'd be on the radio and we'd talk about how high the ceiling was, especially in places where there were low-lying hills and koppies. It was important for the planes to know how the visibility was before they were coming in, because of course nobody really has instruments out in the bush. You're flying small planes that aren't IFR as opposed to VFR, instrument flight rated or visual flight. So I learned to sort of gauge how high ceilings were, and I'd say this is pretty high. This is probably 8,000 feet high. And that means with a little bit of like crossing fingers, touching wood and holding thumbs, that there's going to be no precipitation. If it was a little bit lower, sort of under 2,000 feet, it might drizzle a little. And I'm hoping that it's going to stay as high as it is. It's quite cool. Temperatures are pretty low at the moment. I'd say we're sort of down about 20 degrees Celsius, maybe 22. Maybe Alex can whisper in my ear the projected temperatures that are supposed to be out at the moment. Very low humidity because it's not very warm, so humidity's probably dropped to about 40% right now. And actually getting cool enough that I might need to put on some slings. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. One footprint, you know. No way. Alex is saying there's some site, some weather site maybe, 28 degrees. No, impossible. So I dispute that vehemently. Okay. No, I think it's a lot colder. We've got a bit of a wind chill factor also. But Alex is saying what he's coming up with is 24 to 28 Celsius. And if it was as warm as that, I wouldn't feel it. I wouldn't feel this chill that I'm feeling. Because anything under sort of 20 to 22 degrees Celsius, that's when I get cold. And I'm getting cold. I think it's mostly because of the wind more than anything else. Line tracks might have gone north, but I'm going to forego them now to head further south. We want to try and get to there on that ridge, but more west.
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back on the vehicle with us.
So the combination of my electromagnetic field, my EMF, the frequency of the game drive channel, and the frequency of our broadcast seems to have a conflict. Error 404 not found. But as soon as I touch the game drive channel, it seems to lose signal, so we're going to have to not use it. But that's fine, we hardly use it anyway. But I think if I'm going to have to go onto, if we're going to go onto Arathusa, I might. We'll see, it's a different channel, different frequency. Might be able to work there. But I can probably attempt now before we go there, because if it's going to interfere, it might be that we need to I guess it's got nothing to do with frequencies, because it seems we lost you again. So I was very careful not to use that radio too much at all. Although it's a very quick cutting out and coming back, it's not really conducive to a good game drive. I think it's drawing power from something, but I think it is. Elephant dung slalom. In the winter months there are no scarabs, there are no dung beetles, so in the winter months it doesn't really matter about knocking dung with the vehicle. But it's important now in the summer months to let them do what they have to do. Be cold when you can warm up. It's feeling a lot better now. A bit of a cool wind. I suppose it's got a lot to do with the amount of moisture in the air, and of course the wind just drops the temperature a lot. It might be a nice, comfortable room temperature when the wind's not blowing, but as soon as it blows a little bit, it's not comfortable for me. I get cold very easily. Very often when people are in t-shirts, I've got 2 or 3 layers on. You doing alright? You okay there? Cool. See? Just because I said it wasn't going to, now it is. Spitting. The cloud is spitting at me for making assumptions. Okay. I'm going to try and do Nyala Road, Nyala Drive. Really pretty road. Hopefully we will be fine on that. Questions at WildEarth.tv or hashtag Safari Live if you want to contact us through Twitter. Contact us. Yes, contact me. He said stutteringly. Oh, gosh. Big footprint. Like a dinosaur. Looks like I might not get very far. There are some lower clouds coming in with a little bit of drizzle. Looks like up on Drakensberg Drive there seems to be a little bit of a drizzle. Yeah, there we go. Starting to come down. We might have to make a way for the little house on the prairie. Up on quarantine. And that'll end up being a bit of a question and answer thing. I've got a scarab that I can talk about. If you've noticed my little toy on the dashboard, sitting there quietly. Well, this little scarab's actually not going anywhere other than game drive with us. It died a few days ago. Should have had a bit of foresight because I've got jars and bottles and boxes and matchboxes and things full of skeletons of insects and beetles. Well, beetles are insects. Because I just have this really weird thing that I like to collect them because I love talking about them and I love to show people what they look like. Well, it's just interesting. See, it's about as interesting as animal skeletons, but animal skeletons being an internal skeleton, you have to imagine what the outside looks like, and because we don't see the skeleton, it's sometimes quite difficult to place on, because unless you've seen the whole animal in a skeletal form, some bones can be hard to identify, or even the type of animal it is can be hard to identify. But I suppose because I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say obsessed, but mildly obsessed with bones, rocks and stones and feathers and insects and skeletons and things, and I've always picked them up and I've always looked at them, and I've always, it's a learning thing. It's all about wanting to know. It's all about seeing something and the question mark that comes with it if I don't know, and then the need and the desire to try and learn or make my own deductions or find a path to an answer. That is the fun part. The wonderful thing about books, while the big box of books next to me that no electronic app or media or Wikipedia or Google can help me with, because when you go through a book you have to go through an index, and what makes it even better sometimes going through the books is not even looking at an index, because sometimes you don't even know where to start, so you have to page through it. I've paged through my flower books, my insect book. I've paged through these books so many times I almost know the sequence of things within the books. What it does is things sort of somehow, the subconscious things stay there, and when I see something new, I think, but I've seen that in the book, and I know which book it is that I've seen it in, and I can go back to the book. So it's not only learning the very thing that you're looking for, but it's learning so many other things with it that are increasing the knowledge base. They were, yeah. Hello, Teresa. Question from Teresa came through on Twitter. That one doesn't have to move. Teresa wanting to know what happens to dung beetles in winter. That's what happens to them. They die, sadly. Most insects that go through what we call a complete metamorphosis, in other words, they start off as a grub and they then feed as a grub or as a larva. The real term is larva, but beetles have grubs. As a larva, they only have a digestive system. I mean, this is the amazing thing about nature, is the way it does everything, the way it just all works so fantastically well. Instead of creating a creature that has both a digestive and a reproductive system at the same time, a creature that is so vulnerable to so many things, if it were to have a reproductive system at the same time as its digestive system, for this particular kind of insect, a beetle I'm talking about, there's a bit of a dilemma involved there, because the mortality rate can be so high because there's so many things that eat them, and they can dry out so quickly, they can die so easily, that it would probably hinder the reproduction, and it would probably hinder the species as a whole. So what nature did, it decided that, well, it would give the beetle one form for its digestive system. So it would spend X amount of time eating, and then it would go to sleep, and it would reconstitute all its cells. In other words, the internal part of that beetle would just become mush and a gel, and then the cells would reorganize themselves. The reproductive system would be stimulated. The cells that produce the reproductive system would then be stimulated, and the digestive system would be suppressed, so that when it comes out as an adult, the main purpose of the adult is actually just to reproduce. And there's, if anything, very little or rudimentary reproductive, or rather digestive system, if at all. I mean, there's some species of moths, there are many species of adult insects that actually don't feed at all. They might, wasps, moths, beetles, so that they can produce eggs and sperm and reproduce. But generally speaking, when they become adults, very little or rudimentary reproductive, or rather digestive system, if at all. I mean, there's some species of moths, there are many species of adult insects that actually don't feed at all. They might, wasps, moths, beetles, so that they can produce eggs and sperm and reproduce. But generally speaking, when they become adults, back again. So I need to try and recap or pick up where I left off. You to a black screen and recap or pick up where I left off. You to a black screen. So yes, as an adult, they don't live very long. There are some insects that, as larvae, they live for extended periods of time, and I think some of the longest living insects, which are the way beetles. There are longhorn beetles, the longhorn beetles, and I'm going to some longhorn beetles because they're starting to emerge now. Some of the longhorn beetles can live anywhere between 15 and 20 years as larvae in dead wood. There are the jewel beetles that are perhaps the longest living of all insects, that are known to live for more than 4 decades as a grub, as larvae in wood, before they emerge as an adult for the summer, and then after that, sadly, they move on to beetle heaven. Some insects don't have that kind of metamorphosis. I mean, there's some aquatic mayfly which is famous its emergence in May in the northern hemisphere, hence its name. That emerge in vast numbers. I think they live for less than 24 hours as an adult, but they spend an entire year or several months as nymphs underwater, feeding on different aquatic things. Yeah, kitty kitty. Kunuma's around, I know, I'm sure, I hope. Hello. Looks like we might be disturbing people at the lodge. Hello to the camera. Any zoomies there? So let's see what we can. Not much movement down here at all. But he was here very early this morning, and in this weather maybe he's not too deeply tucked away. Hello Bobby, thanks for the question on Twitter. Bobby is asking which animal has the toughest skin. Buffalo, elephant or other? Good question. I'd have to hazard a guess. I'd have to maybe say the elephant. Buffalo hide is pretty tough. Rhino hide is pretty tough. Elephant skin, elephant, yeah. Hippo is quite sensitive, but it might be quite thick because of the fat layer maybe. I would have to ask a taxidermist, I guess. The only type of person I would know, or a veterinary, maybe a vet who's had to put needles into all of the above. The spitting sky has stopped, so that's good news. I don't really know, Bobby. I guess we're not really talking about the fat layer underneath the skin, we're talking about the actual skin itself. And I would imagine that maybe elephants, just by virtue of the fact that they're the biggest animals on the planet. Alright, oh, the hornbill raiding a termite mound. That's interesting. You can see that on this termite mound, the darker patches are new growth, or rather new deposits from the termites. And a pair, well, one has flown away, but the other one is still there, and they've broken it open and they are feasting on termites. We're trying to break it open. The yellow-billed hornbill has a similar appearance to a toucan, but I believe they're not even related. Well, now, having seen that, we need to take the camera closer, and it might disturb the hornbill, but as soon as we leave it'll be back, I'm quite sure. In fact, probably thank me, because if it left it alone for a little bit, we can get closer and maybe not even disturb the hornbill. You can see it actually picking up bits of clay, and might be able to get it's digging. able to zoom in a bit. There might be an ulterior motive to this hornbill's behavior. It might be looking for some slightly wet clay. If they're going to be nesting, hornbills have incredible nesting habits. They nest in a hole in a tree, and when she's ready to lay eggs, he seals her up in the tree, in the hole, leaving just a little gap for his beak to fit through to feed her. And they use saliva and bark and lichen. They use a variety of materials to seal up the hole. And it could be, I didn't even look. I should have had a close look. I was too busy looking at what it was doing to think whether it was the male or the female that was left behind. It's coming closer so that we can just have a real close zoom in on where it's been digging. You can see some of the chambers, or rather the tunnels that it has opened up. None of the termites are coming to defend the opening. None of them are really out there to see what's going on. So I'm thinking that this is more a digging for clay so that they can nest properly. Trying to find a much more moist probably a little bit too dry. Thing is, I've seen hornbills doing that to feed on the termites, because termites, a breach in a termite, or a termitarium, this is what we call it, a termitarium. This is a very active termite mound, and we can tell that because it is whole. There are no breaches within the mound. It's very smooth. The termites are actually maintaining it exceptionally well. Vital that they maintain it in that condition, because holes mean that things can get in and damage the termites, or they can lose temperature. It's crucial to maintain the termitarium at a constant temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius, the same as us humans. What's that, 98, I think? Same as our body temperature. And they employ various different means to maintain that temperature, including creating tunnels, or rather chimneys, where we saw the mongoose earlier, with chimneys that were created by those termites to release warm air, and what that does is it sucks in cooler air from elsewhere. So normally when there's a breach, termites flock to the breach in the termite mound and start defending it and covering it up, closing it up rather. Termites at the entrance to that, or at that breach. Probably if they showed their face they'd be eaten by the hornbill, but I think that hornbill has, as I say, Probably looking for material to close up the nest. To help close up the nest. Central Road. I've only been struck by an idea to go and look for a giraffe bone. Doing a live safari as we are doing now is a lot different to what you might see on all the nature programs like National Geographic and National Geographic Wild. Edited into... oh, there's a golden oriole. Or is it black-headed? I think it's a golden. We're going to have to creep up on it. I think it's a golden oriole. I hope it stays. Oh, it's flown away. It might have been a black-headed. I saw black on the head, did you?
Yeah, black-headed.
Yeah, I think it was black-headed. Just from behind, thought it might have been an African golden. Go Orioles! Anyone from Baltimore? I'm a fan of whatever team is your team. Having had an oriole fly across our path. Go Orioles. So as I was saying, doing a live safari is very different. For those of you who might be joining us for the first time, I hope there are a few new viewers out there. If you are a new viewer, it'd be nice to hear from you. Think of something to ask me. This is what live safari is all about. You can ask me questions, send them into questions@WildEarth.tv or tweet it. Hashtag Safari Live is the way to tweet. This boerbean is looking very sick. This used to be a really pretty, very pretty boerbean. It was a lot thicker than this 3 years ago. It's looking rather sick, and that's because it has been barked by elephants and it is not doing too well. Poor child, reaching the end of its age. I remember seeing that tree in full bloom with its crimson flowers. Now, to go and find what I need to find, because either here, yeah, it was, we used to go in there, near that dead tree over there. There's the Belanite. Distracting myself from what I'm saying, digressing. But I was saying that the live drive, oh golly gosh, who was that?
African harrier hawk.
It looked like a harrier hawk, but I mean, directly behind it.
In the torchwood.
Oh, it is. I thought I saw a little bit of a white band. Oh, there, that's the nest. Sorry to disturb you, harrier hawk. I don't think I'm going to have any luck here, but I'm going to try my best. Beautiful fluted trunk of the torchwood tree. Magnificent trees. Live drives. Sometimes we have to work hard to find animals, and days like this with this kind of temperature, it's very different to what you might see on National Geographic or Nat Geo Wild programs that are pre-recorded and edited. But on those programs you pretty much know what you're going to be seeing for the half hour or hour that the program is on. But with live drives we never know what we're going to see. We could be coming around a corner on something absolutely amazing. You never really know what's going to turn up. I'm not going to get through here very easily. This is one time when I'm going to have to put my sandals on. I'm just going to walk through this little bush over here. You can maybe follow me as much as you can. But I want to go and look for a bone or two. And maybe Jason will find something also to look at. I won't be too long. I think it's just through here that I want to find something.
Did you bring the whole giraffe?
I'm trying to bring the whole giraffe. But now you've told everybody what it is. Although, gosh, they're heavy. Honey, I'm home. I've got dinner. Okay. The point of this exercise was to help with the answer to a question this morning about giraffe bones, and in particular the cervical vertebra. Out of breath. That was heavy going. Excuse me, dung beetle. My scarab down there. I don't know if I'm going to try and articulate them again. I could only find 4 of the 7. I think given time I could probably find more. And I'm going to try and line them up as best I can on the dashboard. Let me just, okay, each one is about a bit more than a kilogram each. But those are the cervical vertebrae. I just thought I'd bring you 2 others. I mean, I could bring lots more, but it's going to take all afternoon. The scapula, the shoulder blade, and the bone that I found a little fragment of bone this morning, and I was explaining that there's only one bone that can have an external surface so close to each other, and it could be the shoulder blade, very similar to this. What's very interesting is I know the age of these bones, and it's a very nice example for me personally to see how bones have aged over the years, but also how they have, because they're still all there. I mean, there's still ribs, there's still other lumbar vertebra, their leg bones and things. Obviously a lot of growth over them, vegetation that has grown over them, but it's nice to see how they have weathered and the patina that has developed over the years. But not only that, there are still hyena, there are still things chewing on the edges of some of these bones, still getting calcium out of them every now and then. So there's a shoulder blade, and that would probably be the ankle, maybe. And I'm trying to place this. This is the elbow, maybe. So maybe this is the fused ulnar radius. And I must try and picture a giraffe now. Anyways, leg bone, long bone. I've got to sort of put things together and spend time playing with all the bones and then put them all right in my head. So, what's pretty about these bones, especially also being Christmas time, like an angel. The head, the arms raised and the wings. So, we have to, up there, could be there. Thinner ones much higher up on the neck, maybe not quite. This looks like it's close to the axial vertebra. This looks like it's close to the base, and the both axial vertebra. This is probably close to the, getting more closer to the lumbar region. It thins out, so the vertebra closer to the head going to the axial vertebra, which carries the head, gets a little bit thinner. But I think my point here is well made in that this, although I don't think I've articulated it very well, very easy to see that this particular spine here is closer to the lumbar vertebra, because these spines that are the spines that carry the nuchal muscle, what we call, well, that big muscle above the shoulders, and these are sometimes very, well, not they are long, this has been chewed down, and the muscle attachment is what helps to carry the weight of the neck and the head. And I would say that probably maybe, oops, that one. Am I making a noise? No, we're missing. I think we're missing from that. That's probably C7 over there. This might be 2 and 3. That, I'm not sure, might be 4 or 5. And we've got another vertebra to the right that is slightly longer and thinner before you get the first cervical, which is your axial vertebra. But only 4 vertebrae and I'm almost the width of the Land Rover. So just, I had a question about there being 7 vertebrae in the neck of a giraffe, and it immediately made me think of a giraffe carcass that I remember from about 4 years ago. This is about, I'm sure Sharon or somebody, one of the viewers, Karen, can remember when we had a giraffe carcass here. Might be able to find dates for me. It's remarkable how some things stick in the mind. And I knew the trees, I knew exactly where the skeleton lay. What's interesting actually is that there's a Nyala skull in there that must have been killed within the last, actually it's probably at least 2 years old. There are horn borers that are attacking the horns of the Nyala skull. Wrong one, that's the one I'm looking for. Just some audio from final control, just in case Alex has been trying to get me because I've had it out. But yes, those are the cervical vertebrae, the neck vertebra of a giraffe. Now we can continue. Hope you found that interesting. I could spend an hour here just going to fetch all the bones and trying to put the whole thing together as much as I could. Maybe one day. Find our way back to the road, maybe if we were... What? Oh, the gymnogene, the harrier hawk, coming back to its nest. Neither harrier nor hawk. Its name used to be a gymnogene, and it's now called a African harrier hawk, a unique bird of prey with very special features, not related to anything really. It's got its own group entirely, and it is a bird hunter. Well, predominantly a bird hunter, but also more than just being a bird hunter, it's a baby killer. Specializes in digging in holes in trees and crevices in rocks for the young of other birds and maybe lizards, snakes, baby squirrels. Next time, I didn't know that it was nesting here, so next time I come down this road, I'll be careful not to chase it, maybe we'll get to see it better. Hello Joan. I don't think it'll come back as long as we can always try. Good practice following a flying bird. Not easy with a camera, especially a big one like this, especially zooming in. Yaga. I didn't get anything, I just got Joan's name. Joan, hello Joan. Right, let's leave this poor child to come back to its nest. Maybe it needs to be at its nest. I don't want to keep it away from its nest for too long. There used to be a vulture's nest up here somewhere. I'm just trying to think, was it that milkthorn? Or was it... No, I'll remember it when I see it. Joan was asking, when I go out on foot like that, am I not afraid of snakes or other wild animals being or surprising something? No, Joan, I'm not afraid. I'm in my element, in my elephant. I'm aware that there's a likelihood that they are, or there's a possibility that something could be there. I have on many occasions inadvertently stumbled across things that have given us both a fright. But I suppose it's because it's my life, it's what I do every day. I have to be honest, I'm more scared getting out of a vehicle in the middle of this, in a city and walking on the sidewalk than I am getting out of a vehicle in the middle of the bush. So for me, it's part of my life. It's something that I do. I'm not afraid of snakes. I love snakes. We collect snakes as a kid, and I know how sensitive they are. I know that they are very wary of us humans, or anything fairly large for that matter. And I guess there's always the remote possibility of standing on something. There's another wisteria. Sadly, they aren't in flower anymore. They're one of the prettiest flowers. As for bumping into something, whether it's an elephant or whatever it may be, in my experience, animals are pretty understanding when it comes to an accidental meeting. Most of the time. That if you just happen to stumble and they're sleeping and they don't hear you coming along and suddenly you're in their space, they can get a little bit grumpy. They do get a little bit grumpy at times. Especially lions and leopards, and even more so if they've got cubs. Well, then you have an adrenaline moment. Hello buffalo, I just saw your tracks. I was going to say there must be buffalo in these mud wallows. Hello Mr. Buffalo. Roadblock. Okay, you're challenging me, are you? Wrestle you to the ground and bite your ear. No, I won't. I didn't mean that, promise. I was only joking. Wouldn't dare. But just in conclusion, Joan, I think being aware that I could always disturb something when I am out on foot, or when I get out of the vehicle, or when I'm walking in the bush, being aware of what could be there and knowing how to react should something be there is very important. Now, I wouldn't suggest, or I wouldn't recommend just anybody doing it, because if you don't know what you're doing, your behavior might be the very thing that gets you into trouble. You see, where I live with all these animals on my doorstep. I don't have a fence around my house. I don't have, I think the nearest fence is about 30 miles away. I'm very deep within the Greater Kruger National Park, and I've woken up, I have 6 of these boys that come and sleep around my house almost every night these days, and I'm often out at night going out to the Land Rover, and they get used to me being there and I get used to them being there. I don't invade their space, and even though they invade mine sometimes during the night, I wake up with elephant at my front door, literally at my front door, standing on my stoop, cracking the slate. Bye buff, oh, they're your brothers. 4 of them at least. Big dogger boys. Bye boys. We'll see you at Gary Dam soon. I have opened my door on 2 young male lions sitting at my door, had leopard kill impala at my kitchen window. I've had all manner of things outside my house. I've been in the kitchen cooking, leaving where I've inadvertently, well, not inadvertently, I tend to, my windows are permanently open. Anything that can come in through the window, or anything that is able to can come through the windows. My door is often open, and I've often been in the kitchen cooking, and local hyena have even been inside the house. So I don't like to sound complacent, because complacency is very dangerous. I think if anything, I'm familiar with the individuals that live around me. They're familiar with my scent and where I am and what I'm doing, and none of it is threatening really. But the last thing I feel is fear. Healthy respect is important, vital, crucial. And as far as respect goes, it's important as well to show the same respect for something big and potentially dangerous as it is to show respect for something small and harmless, whether it's a chameleon or an ant or a spider. What is that? What is your foot? Hear the noise. Just because something is small and harmless doesn't mean to say that it can be picked up and manhandled or lady handled. Woman handled. No. Why is it called manhandling? Because women are more gentle? So you don't woman handle something, you only manhandle it. I get that. Us guys can sometimes have a bit too much testosterone, and we can be a bit rough with things sometimes. As a kid, it was important for me to catch things and play with them, and I was obsessed with that. I wanted to catch lizards and snakes and insects. And now I suppose, being a little bit more conservative, I like to watch them. I like to watch them engaging in their natural behavior. And if you catch a snake, it goes into defensive mode, it's stressing it out, putting it through stress levels that are unnecessary. But also you'll never get to see it doing what a snake does. And so I've learned, especially with the snakes that live around my house, that if I just take a step back and just watch them, that they become accustomed to my presence, and I get to see them hunting, I get to see them catching prey, I get to see them being snakes. That's the main thing. And it's the same with some of the lizards too. I mean, the lizards have actually they walk over my feet or walk over me if I'm lying down, and I sometimes put a mattress outside on the patio and in the shade and read or write. And some of the skinks that live around me know that I'm not there to catch them, I'm not there to hurt them, and they don't actively seek me out, but they pretty much ignore me because I'm not a threat to them. And so it is with the birds. I maintain several bird bars because different species of birds like to come to water under different circumstances. Some of the smaller seed eaters like to have a lot of cover. They're very nervous when they come to water to come and bath and drink, and they like to have a lot of branches that they can come down gradually. Some birds that like to have open, a little bit more open when they come to the water. The drongos that come, they'll only use one of the bird baths so that they can actually skim water off of the surface the way drongos do. So with the varying bird bars that I have, and in winter I put out a little bit of seed for some of the francolins and hornbills. I don't feed things actively, I just drop some of the remnants of what I eat. Lynn in Canada. Lynn, it's so great to hear from you. I was wondering if you were part of this again. Alaska, Canada. Right, let's try that radio again. Looks like a new road. There's something else. Please. No. Third word. It was working. Through. Hello. Anybody home? There, try again. You came through 5 out of 5 there. Try again, please. ...2011. Thank you, Lynn in Canada. A long time viewer. Lynn saying that I first showed some giraffe bones from that carcass in April of 2011 and it had died in February of 2011. 2011. Thank you, Lynn in Canada. A long time viewer. Lynn saying that I first showed some giraffe bones from that carcass in April of 2011 and it had died in February of 2011. And I, for the life of me, can't remember. I'm not sure if it was killed. Somehow I don't think it was killed. I think it was a natural death. If I'm not mistaken, it was a big male that died. I was looking at those bones, it was a big male, I know that. But I think he died of natural causes. Be a good test to this road, although I'm not going to take this road anymore because I've got some tracks here. I didn't see any tracks on the other part of Nyala Road, and there are no tracks. I'm just going to have to get out and have a look for tracks here. Iron tracks coming up Nyala Road North. So please excuse me a moment. Nothing there. Seem to have headed east. See if we go up central and we'll see what we can find. Even if we don't find something, it's nice to sort of have some direction. Something pointing us in a direction. So 3.5 years old, those bones. Nearly almost 4 years old, I guess. No flowers. Oh, there's fruit on the gardenia, but no flowers. Well, gardenia flowered a long time ago. We get some heavy rain, flower in. That used to be the road. Totally washed out. I'm going to go in the general direction that this cat's been walking in. We might find something, we might not. Welcome to Djuma Game Reserve. Welcome to this part of South Africa. Jackie in Minnesota, MN Minnesota. Referring to the big musk bull that we saw this morning. We were with a bunch of elephants and we big family groups. And we were lucky enough to be joined by a very large, very tall adult elephant bull who was in full must. He was quite amazing actually, because despite the fact that he was in must, he was actually quite amicable. I think it's a piece of snakeskin in that acacia blowing in the wind. Snakeskin doesn't usually look like that. I need a closer look. Anyways, Jacqueline, wanting to know the age. I'm going to think about that and be back in a sec. Most often when one finds a snake that has shed its, or find a skin, or a snake has shed its skin, you find it in a long strip. This is very unusual in that it's just all in one little clump. Let me put it here, then I can hold it still. A little bit of spider web on it. That community web spider that lives there. I can't see the head. It would help if I saw the head. I can see there, you can see the belly scales of the snake. It was about that wide between my, maybe just under an inch wide between my two thumbnails. That's the belly scales. It's all dried together, so if I tried to pry it apart with it being dried, I probably would tear it. And normally what one can do, one can get an idea of what type of snake it was, especially if you could see the head. But I don't know. Fairly broad snake. It's not showing any markings or any coloration that would tell me that it's either a vine snake or it's definitely not a worm slung, because it doesn't have the keeled scales that the worm slung has. So my guess is as good as yours. There, looks like there's a piece of the head. You can see the upper eyelid. Yeah, there we go, here's the head. Just pry it out a little bit. That's the bottom jaw that I've got there now. I could probably go into my reptile book. If I'm putting my finger in its mouth, you can see the bottom jaw. Here's the head stuck on the eye. That piece of the eye, and you can't really see that very well. The eye, there's the other eye. Snake eyes are actually transparent eyelids. They have a fused upper eyelid that has become transparent. They don't have a membrane. So somehow nature's worked it that the upper eyelid is fused close to the bottom eyelid and it's become transparent, which protects the eye. So when a snake sheds its skin, a snake sheds, say that fast. When a snake sheds its skin, that the skin of the upper eyelid comes off as well, so you get this little lens almost of the eye, which makes it easier sometimes in identifying the snake. That one, unfortunately, not going to be able to identify. Getting back to our elephant from this morning, I just heard it sounds like an elephant up here somewhere. I heard a branch break. I would say that he was probably in his 40s. He was a mature bull, very big bull, and my guess is that we would be in his 40s. I would get a closer idea of his age if I could get a closer look at his teeth, but I think since he was in must, I was a bit reluctant to ask him to open wide. You don't push your luck with musk bulls. He actually came right up to the vehicle. I would say maybe 40 to 45, my guess. We lose the Gary repeater. Okay, cool. Hear a Cokie Franklin calling. Cokie. Gorgeous little Franklin. It's very hard to see. Wonderful world of Mother Nature. Time to see if there's still tracks heading up this way. I don't think so. I don't know where that cat went. Hello Dolly, in Ontario, Canada. Looks like a raptor on a tree there. Dolly wanting to know how often a snake sheds its skin. Well, let me just see who that is. That might even be that harrier hawk. Yep, that's the harrier hawk. I've left your nest, child. You can go home now. Dolly, how often a snake sheds its skin? Well, that kind of depends, I think. As far as I know, to my knowledge. As they grow, they need to shed, and their growth rate depends on how much they eat. So generally they'll shed after the dry season, when coming into the wet season, and then maybe again towards the end of the wet season after a lot of eating. Closest. Sorry, just listening to the radio. About the closest we can get. It is sitting pretty far away, but just a lovely silhouette this time of day. temperature is always pretty low on this road because it's a north-south road. We most generally have a prevailing wind from the south, and gosh, even in winter, or especially in winter, it's not real fun work on this road heading south late afternoon, early morning. But it's fun to drive this road because it's a really special road. It's been widened for fire or fire break reasons, but it's a very well traveled road by all the animals because it's so open. It gives me an idea of what might have moved in from the east, or what might have left Gari on the right from the west going to the east. Pretty fresh elephant tracks there. I'm sure that might have been the elephant I heard branches breaking a short while ago. I'm going to do a bit of a loop. I'm going to go to the south, we're going to head in a little bit west and then go back north again, because I want to cover as much ground as I can, especially because there were some cat tracks heading east, and by the looks of things the cat could still be on Gari. Zebra have been here rolling in the sand. A very tiny elephant too. Could be elephants this way. Not very fresh tracks. Zebra going that way. Cloud obscuring our sunset. I was hoping we'd get a beautiful African sunset, but we've had cloud all day and the sun hasn't managed to burn it open at all. I'd say even if anything, places like down south it's actually getting thicker, proving to be a little bit that looks like this elephant family have gone on to Torchwood. There's an elephant track here about that big. It must be a fairly newborn, but they seem to have gone up into Torchwood. hyena den. I think when I first started here, when I was first here in 2008 December, it was an active den. Our local clan was living in here. It's changed shape somewhat, I suppose, from the heavy rains over the last couple of years. Still some bones at the entrance. There's a long bone in the vertebra. I'm thinking maybe impala for that long bone. One of the smaller antelope, well, an antelope. I remember having the sticks lying on top of the termite mound, and the warthog came. They were still youngsters, some of the sticks youngsters. Big male warthog came rushing out, and they were a little bit too slow, but I think they were lucky they didn't catch him, because I think he could have injured them somewhat. Being young and inexperienced cats. Doesn't look like much going on there now. Probably occupied by porcupine at the moment. It'd be nice to put a camera trap somewhere there, if I had one. I used a camera trap beginning of this year for a while, for quite a while. Earlier on in the year, not really the beginning, but yes, earlier on this year. Well, it was the end of summer, really, going into winter. A friend of mine, Clint, has a camera trap that he's busy using at his place at the moment. Nice story about that from yesterday. But I had everything coming past my house. The weirdest thing is that leopard walked past that camera I don't know how many times before it actually took a photograph of the leopard. And every time lion came by, for some reason it didn't work. There was one night I got a hyena at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and somewhere between 2 o'clock in the morning and daybreak, lion walked past, two big males, and then just after daybreak the daker that lives around my house walked past and triggered the camera. So I don't know why the lion didn't trigger it. Maybe they had an invisibility cloak. But my friend Clint had that camera up. I think it was, well, he was out for a walk yesterday and he found a baby bushbuck that had been tucked away by mom. Mom obviously gone off feeding, as a lot of antelope do. They leave their little ones and they go off and feed. And instead of disturbing it or anything, he set up the camera trap, hoping that he could find out what would happen to it. And then went back this morning and found that mama bushbuck had come back to fetch little one, and shortly after she had taken it away, the local leopard came through the drainage line. So luckily mama came back in the right time, in the nick of time, I'll say. Boys, a bachelor group of impala. At least there's some animals out at the moment. 2 of them half-heartedly sparring. If this little boy would move out of the way. Or maybe I better move. We can see a little bit of that. Looks like 2 two-year-olds, babe, maybe. There's a 1-year-old standing in front of them. Two-year-old and a 3-year-old. Don't know. It's hard to tell with their heads down, locking horns. practice for next year, April, May, when they come into the rut, when they start doing this for real, when the horn clashes become pretty serious and they need to vie for the attentions of the female herds, or rather the ownership of the female herds. And hopefully by then this little bachelor herd will know who's who in terms of the hierarchy of the little group. So a subordinate male wouldn't challenge a very much stronger ram. But what's interesting is that in the time that, well, the time that it takes between now and their rutting season, they're bulking up, they're exercising all their sparring muscles by doing this, and their sparring techniques as well. And then as soon as the rut starts, the dynamics change a lot. Now the dominant ram, the ram who manages to win the territory, and with it the females, has got a mighty job on his hands. This is probably one of the big males that will be winning a lot of fights. He's male in his prime, a big ram. He's actually, just by that behavior, he's forcing that one to move. His posture and just his presence moved that one off, so we know he's more dominant than that other one. But all the females will come into estrus at the same time, so he's got to not only cover the females, but he's got to prevent the young rams from trying to get back to their mothers. He's got to prevent all these other bachelors from trying to sneak into the bachelor herd, or rather sneak into the breeding herd to try and mate with some of the females, which they will constantly do. So the poor guys running around all day chasing rams, herding the females, because sometimes the females don't really want to be kept in a tight group, and so they start moving off, and the rams then become very, I suppose in a way, aggressive, forcing the females back into the group. And he loses condition fairly quickly, and it's then that another ram will take over. So within about 2 weeks of being the dominant ram in a herd of impala during the breeding season, the mating season, and it takes about 2 weeks for him to lose enough condition that I wouldn't say a smaller ram, but a more subordinate ram is likely to take over, and that way you get a little bit of a variation in the gene pool within a herd. So the one that's walking away now dropped his head in acquiescence and walked away. There's a blacksmith lapwing on the ground with them, probably capitalizing on insects that are being scared up by the feet of the impala. There, see how just the dynamics of one ram moving and others moving away. How when one approaches another, if that one turns and moves away, then it's acquiescence, it's submission in a way. And this is all displacement behavior, self-grooming, the means of posturing, maintaining dominance. And then back to grazing. Let's continue. Bye boys, mind the cats if you see any. Good evening, Hal in Rapid City. I'm guessing Rapid City sounds like Michigan. Please let me know. Last night, my brain says Michigan. Maybe it's not. Rapid City. Hal wanting to know how many languages I speak. My native tongue is English, by the way. That's part of the question. I'm an English-speaking South African. I speak a number of languages, but I'm not fluent in most of them. I guess I could say that I'm pretty fluent in mostly two languages, English and another language we had at school, which was a compulsory second language, was Afrikaans, very similar to Dutch, and so I can understand Dutch people, and that helped me to learn German. I speak a bit of German, by no means fluent. I speak Shangaan, but I'm also, once again, not fluent in Shangaan. I can speak Shangaan pretty well. I understand it a lot better than I can speak it. Swahili from East Africa. I can speak Swahili pretty well and understand it very well. Phonetic language, so it's easy to read. Not many different sounds for the vowels. There's only sort of one sound for each for the vowel, so it's fairly easy to follow. And of course Swahili is a mixture of a bunch of languages. You get a little bit of Arabic thrown in, a little bit of German, some of the more modern things that have come out of the modern world that don't have African equivalents in the Bantu languages, that at least have been substituted with either German, because places like East Africa, Tanzania was a German colony at one point. I used to speak Hebrew pretty well. Had a bit of a reminder recently with Nadav and Elan here, because Elan is a Sabra. He was born in Israel and speaks Hebrew fluently. So a lot of it was coming back to me. I should speak it a lot better. My sister is in Israel. What else? Zulu I can understand quite well. I don't speak it very well, but I do speak a bit of Zulu. And I suppose I speak a couple of other languages in the kind of northern Sotho, Setswana. When I was living in Botswana, my Setswana was a lot better than it is now. I haven't used Setswana, so I've forgotten it. I suppose I know about as much Zulu as I know Spanish. Maybe a bit more Zulu. I speak elephant a little bit, but I don't understand a lot of the longer rumbles. Hard to translate elephant. There's no dictionary or app. Maybe I should make an elephant app. Oh, it's South Dakota. Thanks, Hal. South Dakota. Why did I think Michigan? Can't think of anything in Michigan that could have the name Rapid in it at all. There's something Rapids in Ohio. So, South Dakota, up in the Midwest, other side of Illinois. South of North Dakota. That's a hard one to remember. Where's South Dakota? South of North Dakota. What is South Dakota known for? If places like North Carolina is the Tar Heel state, And what is South Dakota? What is it? What kind of state is? That's a question for you, Hal. Miami is what? The Sunshine State, or is that California? Not Miami, I mean Florida. For a while. Lovely quiet afternoon drive. Pity Saturday afternoon. It'd be nice to have had a very active drive, but it's the weather. Babblers babbling, shattering the quiet with their wonderful song. I'm going to see them, but flying away now. Arrow marked babblers babbling, having lots to say about their day. Sioux, California this time. Hi there, Sue. I guess morning still in California. That must be about 10 hours behind us. Sue wanting to know about elephants. I think now we were with a bunch of elephants this morning, and amongst the elephants were a lot of youngsters. Sue wants to know how old are they when their tusks start growing. Well, in the first year or two they have baby teeth tusks. The tusks of an elephant are essentially the incisors, as opposed to the tusks of the pig family, which are the canines. But when an elephant is born, its incisors start growing pretty much, if not born with them growing already. However, they don't protrude from the jaw or the lip as yet. They're known as tushes, T-U-S-H. And it's not pronounced tush. It's a tush. And the tushes fall out at about 2, and then I suppose after that the tusks, the adult teeth come in. And the tusks, being incisors, are their permanent incisors, unlike the molars, which are replaced throughout their life. In fact, they go through 6 sets of tusks, or rather 6 sets. Scratch that. Jury will disregard that statement. 6 sets of molars. They go through 6 sets of chewing teeth, cheek teeth, in their lifetimes. And the tusks are permanent, just like us. If we lose our incisors, if we lose a tooth, it doesn't grow after we get our adult teeth. But they do, unlike us, they do keep on growing. Now, not all elephants are gifted with the genes for tusks or for long tusks. There's some elephants who appear to be tuskless. They might have just the stubs of their incisors there, but they might just not protrude from the upper lip. Sometimes they might break off, sometimes they might lose them. Sometimes you get one-tusked elephant, as we had on our way into work this morning. Big one-tusker in Must. I thought at first he was the one-tusker that I have experienced back home, but his tusk was different and his ears were different. I should have gone on that other road. Doesn't matter. I know there's something I can show you on this road. Because this morning I was talking about elephants and how they farm with trees and how important they are to the survival of trees and the bushveld, and how the bushveld is primarily regenerated through the efforts of elephants, and how they can actually harvest and farm different species of trees depending on how they utilize them and what they need from them. And the one species of tree that we get here that is heavily utilized by elephant, and in fact so much so that the growth pattern of this tree has changed somewhat because of the way elephants feed on it, and that's the round-leaf teak, Pterocarpus rotundifolia, which is fed on in a certain way to enhance the aspect that an elephant needs the most, which is the bark of the young shoots of the tree. And instead of allowing them to grow into a tree, they constantly breaking the new recoppicing shoots so that they form clumps. Yeah, we're starting to get to it now, a little bit on my right, starting to get to some of it, where if we had to look at the stumps of these teaks, we would find that they might be big enough to actually have been trees if they were allowed to grow. But these little branches are constantly broken off towards the end of the wet season when they are 8 to 10 feet tall. And all the elephants need from it is the bark. And we're going to get to a stand of brownleaf teak. Actually from here it's quite prominent, but there's just around the next corner, not this one. Soon there is a stand of it that is probably not very high, because it was probably fed on sometime towards the beginning of the dry season or during the dry season, this past dry season, and now the elephants will leave it be until later on in our wet season, later on in our summer. And it's the perfect example. I've seen it further south in the Sabi Sand as well, but further north we don't get the roundleaf teak. Further north the dominant tree species there is the Mopani tree, and the elephants do the same with the Mopani. One finds that they will especially create these forests, these mini forests, in areas where there is a seep line, where groundwater feeds the trees, keeps them green a little bit longer. Here are some more. I might even be able to find some old branches that have been broken by ellies over the years that are then just meant to be decomposing and feeding the soil again. Interestingly, I've noticed with elephants that they will allow their children to run free amongst, so this isn't a very big stand, but there sometimes with the Mopani felt you can get acres and acres of it, all kept cropped at sort of eye level to a cow elephant, and it allows them to let their little ones just run free and undisciplined for a little while. Up in Tanzania, same thing happens with yet another species of tree, because the Mopani doesn't grow that far up north. And I would imagine that there are other tree species that are farmed in a similar way by elephants in other areas. Oops. Whether it be for the bark or the leaves, necessarily the fruits. Plant or an animal? Billy in Louisiana. Nice question there. Have I ever found a plant or animal that I've been surprised to see? Well, yes, I think constantly to some extent, but I think the most surprising and the most astounding, the most wonderful surprise of all that I've had in a long time was a few weeks ago, after about a week of this weather, occasional drizzle, cool temperatures. I found an orchid. I'm still trying to get the scientific name for it. I'm still trying to find another picture of it. Just by the way, we're now sort of entering this teak, this sort of area of teak. At the moment it's all only about 4 feet high, but it stretches quite far into the bush. And this is all going to be at least 8 foot tall by the end of the summer months. And they're going to come by and start picking them, these little stems, these little branches, picking them at the base, bark off. You might get to see that towards January, who knows. From here it's quite an extensive area. Obviously there are other trees amongst all of the teak, but it's, well, for me it's an interesting concept. Anyways, Billy, I found an orchid, and for years, in fact for 30 years or more, 40 years, 30 years, I have believed that we are a very, this particular area, maybe not so much the Sabi Sand, but where I am, it's at home in the Tumavati, it's a much drier region. It's sort of maybe half the annual rainfall that you get here in the Sabi Sand. And the last thing I would have expected was to find a terrestrial orchid, because we do get the two subspecies of epiphytic orchids that grow on other trees, and they use the dead and dying bark of other trees as not only support, but they do derive nutrients from it. They're not a parasitic plant, so they don't injure the tree, they don't affect the sap of the tree, so the tree doesn't develop a gall the way it does as with mistletoe, which is a parasitic, hemiparasitic, semi-parasitic plant. So yes, that was probably about the most surprising thing I've seen lately. But yeah, I think there was another one, probably in the beginning of the summer months, during spring, probably about September, October. I was with some friends, it had been raining, and I found an East tiger snake. And it's not that I was surprised to see it, because they do occur, but they're just not seen very often. When did we see that vine snake, Joe? It was yesterday. No, day before. Day before yesterday, immediately after shutting down. It was dark. There was a huge snake in the road, and just the way it was moving, and then because of the darkness, I thought it might have been a juvenile python, a little python, a hatchling python. But it turned out to be the biggest vine snake I've ever seen in my life. A vine snake is a magnificent snake, probably about one of our most venomous snakes. So yeah, sometimes I mean the surprise of coming around the bend and seeing a lion or a leopard in the road is I don't know if you mean, if your question is in that line, whether you mean it in that sense. Oh, oops. Sorry to disturb sundowners, folks. People having drinks at Cliffles of Dam. So we're not going to be able to stop. But because nature is so vast and so wonderful, there's always something that I've seen before, doing something I've never seen before. That I think is one of the driving forces about being a naturalist and having the passion that I do. I'd love to sort of stop to see the hippo maybe waking up, but I'm not going to, because there are people that are busy with their evening sundowner ritual. I'd love to sort of stop to see the hippo maybe waking up, but I'm not going to, because there are people that are busy with their evening sundowner ritual. You can never see it all. You can never learn it all. And even the things that you do see and the things that you do learn, you have to adapt all of that, because things are changing constantly, or you have to add to that knowledge, because it's just so vast. There's just always something new, and it's that quest to find something new, to see something new, that is one of the driving forces in life. Because I know that there's invariably going to be something almost every day, perhaps, that is extraordinary and interesting, or just phenomenal. Okay, time to close some lights. And then there was daylight. Not even a hint of sunset. There's such dark cloud in the west that it didn't even change colour after sunset. There wasn't any pink or anything, so hopefully we will get a sunset. The roller in the road. Don't want to put too much light on it. Still got to fly home. Probably catching the last few insects for the day. Lilac-breasted roller. LBR. Hello again, John. John in Connecticut. John's asking if, or rather, which is more dangerous. Period. They can be potentially. I don't know if I could quantify that. I don't know. Both of them can be buffalo in a big breeding herd. So I guess I should start the answer with it depends, as I usually do. Buffalo in their big breeding herd that we saw the other day, or EFT, are not necessarily dangerous. They tend to like a big really bunch of cows move around and moo and eat grass. I suppose the closest to being. But unless they physically threaten, they maybe lion would threaten them by trying to take out for an injured individual, protective over their calves and their individuals, and they were threatened in the big breeding herd. It's like the bulls we saw earlier, or the bulls that we had every day when they come down to wallow. Those bulls be a little take out for an injured individual and protective over their calves and their individuals, and they were threatened in the big breeding herd. It's like the bulls we saw earlier, or the bulls that we had every day when they come down to wallow. Those bulls be a little temperamental, and maybe not when they're in a group as much as if they're solitary. When they're solitary, they're pretty nervous because they don't have mates around them to help them with danger. And I suppose another aspect to the whole thing is depending on the circumstances. Since buffalo unfortunately, I don't really bring up the subject thing, but they are cunning, they are sly, they are extremely dangerous if they're being hunted. And if they're in defense of it, are not hunters if they get. So under those circumstances, because it is, I guess, in a way, in a sense, extenuating circumstances, they can be more dangerous than hippo. However, hippo, on the other hand, don't need to feel threatened by being hunted. Hippo merely have to feel that their personal space or their territory is being trespassed, and that is to get back to the sanctity of the water that they've come from, and they will through anyone who's in between, and that is to get back to the sanctity of the water that they've come from, and they will through anyone who's in between. But even in the water, hippo can be very aggressive within their territories, as many people on boats or kayaks have found. There is a theory, there are murmurs that hippo tend to kill more people than any other mammal in Africa. I don't know how true it is. just that they are quite temperamental. I don't know, John, if that answers your question. I don't know if it even comes close to answering the question, but it's not really something that one can say for certainty that one is more dangerous than the other. I think one just has to respect them both for the size and potential that are potentially lethal, and one has to avoid getting into circumstances that is liable to lead them to have to defend themselves. You know, in many cases in nature, attack is the best form of defense, and they often resort to that, especially if their immediate personal space has been invaded. Cows and calves, hippo cows and hippo calves, buffalo cows and buffalo calves. Maternal instinct is very strong. I suppose I should have had this. Let's find out. Oh, 3 minutes. Well, another time. Maybe just make it to the dam to say goodbye again. That's not to say that every time you or see buffalo, or if every time there is a buffalo on its own or a hippo out of the water, it's not to say that every time they are going to be dangerous. It's not to say that every time one encounters them that it's a potentially life-threatening situation. We've got to remember that we are talking about living, breathing, feeling, thinking beings that have moods, that have interactions with their environment 1,000 times a day, and many different things that are happening in their territory, in their environment, to them as individuals. And so they have moods, they go through very much similar stuff to what we do. So on one day you might encounter a hippo that on one particular day is very mild-mannered and very calm, and on another day, after something that might have happened that night before, might suddenly become very aggressive. So it comes back to the same old. It's a behavioral thing, and oops, sorry, Duck. And being a behavioral thing, there isn't a set rule as to how things do behave. And I think now that we have reached the end of my time, switch that off because it's probably pointing at the camera. Hello, camera. The time has come to say goodbye, and I hope you're going to enjoy your weekend. I hope you're going to have a wonderful time. I think Scott will be with you tomorrow. I'm going to be working on the jigger. I've got a chap coming in to check on the electronics of the jigger, because I think that's the main issue. That is the main problem that we have with it at the moment, beyond my expertise, and I'm going to be helping, and hopefully we can get the jigger up and running and it'll be out with us tomorrow evening. But failing that, I'll see you then on Monday. But thank you for joining me. I want to thank you for the questions that you've sent in and the interactions that we have. Keep the questions coming. It's really great to have that. It's wonderful to discuss these things. I guess my beetle that has been with me all day today will stick around for another day, that I can explain to you some things about a dung beetle. So stay tuned, I guess. From Jason behind camera, Alex and Alex in final control, my name is Mark, and you've been with us here at Djuma Game Reserve on Wild Earth. Bye everybody. #Safari Live, questions at wildearth.tv. Bye.